Thanks for joining me on another Karoo photography photo trip. I'm heading out to take some photos of shepherd's trees this morning in one of my favorite spots. There are a few clouds in the sky, so I'm hoping for a bit of color. Let's see what we can produce today. We're getting some slight color this morning in the clouds, better than nothing. My composition is pretty simple: a shepherd's tree in the foreground, another smaller one in the background, with some mountains in the distance. I think I'll take a wide shot first, and then I will see if I can get a better composition by cropping it a bit. Yes, I like this slightly better. It's still very dark, so I'm not really getting anything in the foreground. I might end up doing a couple of bracketed exposures just to get enough light in the foreground. But yeah, the color is already fading in the sky, but I'm hoping as the sun rises over the horizon to get another flash of light. We often get a few minutes of extra light. Yes, I'm definitely going to have to exposure bracket this, maybe plus minus 2 stops. The exposure without any compensation. That's the exposure with +1 stop, and the exposure with +2 stops. And just to make sure the foreground is okay, I'm going to go up to +3 stops. The sky is blown out, but I will merge the images. And then just on the other side again, to make sure, I think I'll go to -1 stop to try and capture absolutely the last bit of color in the sky. Here's the file out of the camera, the raw file. You'll notice that the foreground is quite dark, so is the tree, and the highlights are quite bright in the sky. So my first processed version, I lifted the foreground, the dark foreground, dropped the highlights in the background and cropped it ever so slightly. This is better, but I'm still not happy with it. So what I decided to do is to lift the tree trunk a bit, because to the human eye it's actually quite a bit brighter than the photo. So in the final version you'll see I simply lifted the whites, brightened the shadows on the tree trunk, and I think it's a far more pleasing version. And a little bit of color in the sky, the clouds, it definitely helps. Seems like we're not going to get any better light in the sky this morning, unfortunately. Maybe just a tiny bit of light on the horizon. Sometimes the light show lasts long. Today the light show maybe lasted 5 minutes. But hopefully there was an image in there worthwhile capturing. And while this is all happening, the mosquitoes are eating me. With the sun now almost above the horizon, the clouds did get a bit of extra light, which is great. I think I'm going to do another maybe 4-shot bracket here, just to make sure that I capture both the foreground and the highlights in the sky. It's -1 stop. That is just as metered. No compensation. +1 stop. To get the foreground, that is +2 stops, and just to make sure the full foreground is there, +3 stops. You could also do automatic exposure bracketing, but I actually prefer to set the compensation per shot. It actually works better for me. And we're now shooting right into the sun, just above the horizon, but I think I've got a reasonable composition here.
I'll be doing another bracket shot. What I normally do for the first one of a bracket, I just put my hand or something in front of the lens. So when I look at the images, I know that's the start of a new bracket. So that's 0 exposure compensation. Then I'll be going up to +1 stop to get more detail in the foreground, +2 stops, and then finally on the plus side, +3 stops. Foreground is still pretty dark, but I should be able to lift the shadows a bit. And then on the other side I'll go to -1. Okay, -1. Sun is in my eyes, I can't see what I'm doing. And I will go to -2. And finally, probably not necessary, but I'll go to -3 just to get any detail in the sun. You'll see, all you can actually see there is a tiny light spot where the sun is.
Here we have the raw file of the image just captured after I did the combining of the different exposures. I quite like it with the sun just peeking out, but the image is a bit flat, very low in contrast. So what I did, as you can see here in the developed version or the process version, I just upped the contrast slightly, and it definitely looks a bit better. Also dropped exposure a tiny bit. It was a bit too light for my liking.
This is the image I'm seeing on the drone. Not spectacular, but at least a bit of color in the sky. And it's a beautiful morning other than for the mosquitoes. Well, it seems like the light show didn't last very long this morning. Maybe in total the clouds lit up for 5 to maybe 10 minutes. And then there was another small light show, short light show, just after the sun rose above the horizon. I managed to get 2 compositions, same tree, 2 compositions. One with the tree in the background to the left of it, underneath it, which I think is quite the classic shot. And then in the second composition, I actually tried to hide the tree in the background behind the main tree. I don't know how successful that was. The only way that could work is because the shepherd's tree's got a very light bark, very light colored trunk. So maybe that'll stand out compared to the dark background of the dark green tree in the background. But either way, interesting tree. Second time that I've shot this tree. The first time it was more a foggy sunrise with some clouds in the background, which you've probably seen in the previous video. But I'm relatively happy with this. And there are 1 or 2 other trees here that I just want to investigate this morning. So next time that I rush out here like this morning, I'm not going to have to run around. I can go straight to the trees. I've noticed 2 other trees here from the air that actually looks like they have potential. So I'm going to take a walk around. I do have a final composition here of the same tree, making use of the side light from the sun just peeking out behind a few broken clouds. I'm hoping that the trunk of the tree specifically would be the point of interest in this case, and the few little clouds in the background, the few layers of clouds, will just break up that ugly blue sky. 1/20th of a second, f13, 2-second timer. I just wish those clouds in the background had some more color, but yeah, we don't always get what we wish.
Here we have the final image of the tree. I actually quite like this composition. The bush in front, bottom left, with a white branch on it, actually points towards the tree, and the tree actually stands out quite nicely, I think, because of the white bark, and also the light on the left hand side of the tree, the nice warm light coming from the sun that is just out of the frame in the top left hand. I didn't do much to this image. I just lifted the shadows a tiny bit, dropped the highlights a bit, and tiny bit of extra saturation. Overall, I think I like this image the best of all the images this morning.
I didn't actually plan on coming out shooting this morning. The weather prediction said no chance of any clouds, so I was planning on doing some editing. But just before 5 o'clock, I looked out and I saw some interesting clouds, so I thought, well, make use of them while you can. So I rushed out here, came straight to this specific tree because I've shot it in the past and I know it is interesting at sunrise. And I think I did manage to get one or two images that are probably worthwhile. At least it was worthwhile coming out here, and in spite of the mosquitoes, it was fun. I really appreciate you guys joining me, and I hope that you will like this video enough to give me a thumbs up. It helps with some of the algorithms, the way YouTube actually shows videos when you search for them. And also, if you subscribe to the channel, you'll see any future videos that I release. Got a few planned. I've been doing a bit of scouting over the last day or two, and there's a different area in the mountains that I want to shoot pretty soon. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Stay happy, stay healthy. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.